Everybody, this is Patrick at In Response Gaming, and this is what's new with Flesh and Blood. Everybody, it's been a crazy weekend with the first national tournament ever for Flesh and Blood, so there's a lot of information to get through, not just with what the US had, but also France, Germany, UK, and Spain. There's a lot of different countries that had Flesh and Blood tournaments, so let's go right into the information for you guys, and let's break down what happened with the tournaments and how many decks were played, what decks were played. So let's go ahead and get right into it. All right, so we know that the tournaments for US was a little bit better of a turnout because it has a little bit more popularity, so we'll go ahead and get right into that one. We could see here that the very first turnout for the day of the metagame breakdown, we have sort of a Briar at the top, being the 134 decks that were played for construction. This is just for the classic constructed. We also have Prism. We have being at number 3. A lot of people were thinking that Prism was going to start to overrun a little bit more. I think Cincinnati was the last one before in the Nationals, and so they had the top 8. If I'm remembered correct, they have 2 Prism decks in the top 8 along with 2 Briar decks. So it's a little bit more diverse when it came to the classic constructor for Cincinnati. Bravo is up there as well. It was in at least one deck in the top 8 for Cincinnati. You have your 2, I guess you could say they are the most leading or the most popular aggro decks, which was Katsu and Dash, which I typically play. And then we have Chain with Bolt, some Viscerai in there. Reinhardt, I believe a lot of people wanted to test with Reinhardt because of the Prism decks. They wanted to push through damage so that they were not able to block, as well as getting cards out of their hand so they couldn't pitch them for certain things, as well as they can defend against some Phantasm attacks, I believe. Oldham was also in the running for the US Nationals in Orlando, but that was just the very first day. And according to the pie breakdown for Flesh and Blood, the day one, this should help you out a little bit more for this particular first day. Now it changes a little bit for the second day. I don't actually have the second day information. I was trying to look through to get that for you guys, but for the US Nationals, it did turn out so that Prism, Katsu, and Dash did not make the cut, but surprisingly, neither did Bravo, being the second highest at 64 decks in the constructed meta breakdown for the US Nationals. But it by a surprising turn of events, you have the US Nationals top 8 having 2 Chains and 1 Lexi. Surprisingly, this Lexi was not a Lightning Lexi, as some people might want to test with as well, pumping out as much damage as going wide as you could. But it seems like Briar is doing a way better job than Lexi is when it comes to that. Isaac Jensen, he was the one that actually did an Ice Lexi, which is sort of taxing and go tall type deck. And as it came down to a shocking defeat whenever he tried to cast his third of a 3 of a kind, and it whiffed, and that was what could have won him the game. He was in a commanding lead. He had 18 life, and his opponent was down to like in the single digits. So it would have been nice, and it would have been a completely different semifinals and potentially finals for the tournament had he not whiffed on his 3 of a kind. But Briar seems to have a commanding lead when it comes to the go wide route, the 0 cost cards, and things that will pump out more damage than you might think. Some damage turns are going up to 19 damage, that should probably surpass some of the go tall decks. So when we have the US Nationals, we also have other things that were taking place in the US at the time. There were ProQuest and there was the calling, which was a separate thing from the US Nationals. I tried to find the deck list for you guys when it came for the US National, or for the US Orlando calling, but from what I remember, there was 3 Oldhim decks, and the rest was Briar with the I want to say 1 Viserai, which was piloted by Matt Rogers. He went to semifinals with the Viserai, but it didn't turn out it didn't win the thing. Sadly enough, Viserai was actually would be nice to see that go into the top finals there. There was the winner for the US calling in Orlando was an Oldhim deck. I think the chance of having people playing more Oldhim and more Ice Lexi would help out tournaments, slowing down Briar, and I think that's what LSS had created the entire set to actually put in. Was, okay, you have all these go wide and you now just have all these aggressive decks. How about we put a little bit of slowing down effect with these Frostbites? So I think that's why a lot of people tried to use Oldhim in those decks, and for the tournaments. So I think that's going to be key from the metagame from here on out. Now we actually have some updated information for when it comes to Cosmic Plays at Twitter. He had put a little breakdown of the top 8s here. The national championship breakdown was, as of November 18, the number of top 8 placements. The top was, of course, going to be Briar by 30, and then not even it goes to surpass 3 times the second 3 times the amount of decks for Briar than it was the second place decks, which was Bravo at 9. So for this pie chart, I believe it was counting a lot of different tournaments, if not just the US and some one other country. At the bottom of this picture here, you're going to see Bulgaria Nord is incomplete of the top 8 reporting at the time of this creation for Cosmic Plays, but he put some of these to break down what actually happened in those tournaments. So it seems like it's a universal belief that Briar is your aggro go-to, and it was sort of like the best go wide as well, because you're not having to banish cards like you would with Dash. You're not really having that much on hit effects with Dash. You're not really having the crazy turns that you could have with Katsu as you can with Briar. So it seems like she's the aggro go-to. As we have here, we actually have a picture of the top 8 French nationals, which was completely different, adding a little bit of details towards the top 8. Now, if you go back to the top 8, you could actually see some of the decks that were factored in. The top 8 placements for the pie chart here for Cosmic Plays, it takes into effect some of the nationals from other countries, which was the French nationals, and that was Reinhardt. Those 2 decks that actually came into the top 8 was 2 Reinhardt decks from the French top 8 nationals. So you can see some people are trying certain decks and necessarily have to have Briar decks, but some decks are actually trying to surpass some of the meta things, and they were planning, maybe they were having some Prism decks, maybe they were going too much, and that's why they brought the Reinhardt, like I said before. But they had 2 Briar decks, 2 Reinhardt decks, 1 Bravo, 1 Chain, 1 Dash, and 1 Katsu for the French nationals. If you go to the deck list, the top 8, normally they only put the top 8 for a championship or some type of nationals. They only put that in for the Fab TCG deck lists on their official website. So if you go there, you'll see 1 Bravo, 4 Briar, 1 Viserai, and 2 Katsu for the US, for the UK National Championship, because UK, France, Spain, Germany also had their championships or tournaments, not just the US. And we did see a UK calling from Matthew Fawkes, which actually did have somewhat of investigation. I think it was a calling, if I'm not mistaken. But that goes down to another type of another video later on. And so we're seeing not just US, but other people are picking up that Briar is the go-to right now, because it seems to have a lot of simple plays that you could do for top damage output, and they do have some on-hit triggers for even more damage. So I think that's where their other aggro decks are lacking. Maybe Dash is lacking on hits. You do get some on-hit triggers for Katsu, and that's why it's putting out some more deck outputs for top 8. As we could go back to the pie chart, we could see that Katsu had 4 as Dash had, or Katsu had 5, Dash had 4. But all in all, I think it was a great turnout for any type of Flesh and Blood tournament. And I think Channel Ball did a very good job sponsoring the stream and making sure we got the best coverage for the US Nationals. There were some that were putting the streams for the others. As you can see with Flesh and Blood Twitter, they were able to put the links for those as well. You got 2 Twitch links and then maybe some YouTube links for some others if you want to check that out. I'm going to be putting them in the description down below. But Channel Fireball did a great job, and I think having the UK fiasco of the cheating with some of the cheating investigation with Matthew Folks, they turned out it was just a warning. And I think you could tell there was a lot of judge calls on stream, not necessarily in the entire venue, but on stream they had some judge calls. They want to make sure that everything was good. But I think in general, Flesh and Blood did a great job this weekend having the very first Nationals. So if you guys want to see any more coverage about what we are going to be covering on Flesh and Blood, go ahead and hit the bell, hit the like, hit subscribe, everything you can to follow this channel. This is the very first episode, so we're going to be getting into some more details about certain videos later on. But and I'll also put my social media links down below if you wouldn't mind following those so you can stay tuned. But this is Patrick at In Response Gaming. Thanks for watching.